The sound of the slap echoed through the beautifully decorated ballroom, silencing the string quartet and freezing every guest in place. My daughter Sophie stood there, her hand touching her reddening cheek, tears welling in her emerald eyes that matched mine. "How dare you?" Miranda seethed, her designer bracelet jingling as she lowered her hand. "Inviting my social circle to this budget celebration? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is?" I moved through the crowd like a silent storm. The $50,000 I'd spent on this party was hardly budget, but Miranda didn't need to know that. Just like she didn't need to know that the simple event planner she'd been sneering at for the past hour was actually me, the silent owner of the city's most prestigious venues, including this one. "Get your hands off my daughter," I said quietly, my voice carrying across the stunned silence. Miranda whirled around, her perfectly styled hair swishing with the movement. "Oh, look who it is. The yoga teacher who thinks she can play in the big leagues." She gestured dramatically at the gathered crowd. "These are my friends, my connections. The governor's wife, the CEO of Summit Industries, the entire board of Metropolitan Arts. They're here because of me." Sophie looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. I gave her the smallest nod, and she stepped back, a slight smile playing on her lips despite her red cheek. "Actually, Miranda," I said, maintaining my calm, "why don't we ask them who invited whom?" I raised my hand and the string quartet resumed playing. Margaret, the governor's wife, stepped forward first. "Really, Miranda? I'm here because Sarah sits on the board of my children's foundation. She's our largest anonymous donor." Miranda's perfectly lined lips parted in shock. But you always attend my charity galas." "Out of political necessity," Margaret said coolly. "Sarah's the one who actually gets things done." Before Miranda could respond, James Chen, CEO of Summit Industries, approached. "Sarah, that merger you advised me on last month increased our market value by 30%. Brilliant strategy." "Merger?" Miranda's voice rose an octave. "But you've been my client for years." "I buy art through your gallery occasionally," James shrugged. "I trust Sarah with the real investments." One by one, Miranda's supposed connections revealed their true ties to me. The museum board members who knew me as their chief endowment manager, the society ladies who sought my quiet counsel on their family trusts, the business leaders who relied on my strategic insights. Miranda's face grew paler with each revelation. "This is impossible. You teach yoga at the country club." "I own a country club," I said softly. "Teaching yoga is my passion, not my profession. Though I'm surprised you never wondered how a yoga teacher could afford the membership." "Dad," Sophie called out, "are you going to let her get away with slapping me?" My ex-husband, David, finally broke free from his shocked stupor. "Miranda, what were you thinking? She's 16. Miranda's eyes darted around the room, finally noticing the subtle security cameras. "You can't prove anything." Actually, I pressed a button on my phone, and the ballroom screens lit up with multiple angles of the slap. "I can prove everything, including your behavior at last month's board meeting when you tried to take credit for the Children's Hospital initiative." "The hospital." Miranda swayed slightly. "That was you too. The anonymous benefactor who donated the new wing?" I smiled. "Yes. Just like I'm the silent owner of that art gallery you manage, the one you've been embezzling from for the past year." The crystal champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "You can't, you wouldn't." "Mom," Sophie touched my arm. "Remember what you always say about power." I looked at my beautiful daughter, so poised despite the handprint still visible on her cheek. "That true power isn't in destroying others. It's in letting them destroy themselves," Sophie finished. I turned back to Miranda. "The audit team arrives Monday. I suggest you spend tomorrow getting your affairs in order." "David," Miranda clutched at my ex-husband's sleeve. "Do something." But David was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "All these years, you let me think. You never asked," I said simply. "You assumed, just like Miranda did, that a woman who finds joy in teaching yoga couldn't possibly be anything more." The string quartet shifted to a new song, Sophie's favorite. "Now, I address the room. I believe we're here to celebrate my daughter's sweet 16. And Miranda," I met her terrified gaze, "you're no longer on the guest list." As security quietly escorted Miranda out, Sophie hugged me tight. "Best birthday ever, Mom." "Really? Even with I touched her cheek gently. Are you kidding? She grinned, watching her face as everyone revealed who you really are. Worth every second. Though I do have one question. What's that, baby? Can we have the chocolate cake now? I laughed, signaling the waiters to bring out the elaborate cake I had specially made. Of course. After all, I raised my voice so Miranda, still visible through the glass doors, could hear. Some things really are priceless. The Monday morning after Sophie's party dawned bright and clear. I sat in my private office at the gallery's corporate headquarters, watching Miranda pace nervously in the waiting room through one-way glass. She traded her usual designer dress for a conservative business suit, clearly trying to project professionalism for the audit team. Mrs. Kennedy, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. The forensic accountants are ready. Send them in first, I replied, gathering the files I'd been collecting for months, evidence of every questionable transaction, every manipulated sales record, every artificial inflation of commission fees. The audit team filed in, 3 stern-faced professionals I'd hired from the city's top firm. As I briefed them, I noticed David had arrived, hovering uncertainly near Miranda in the waiting room. Bring them both in, I instructed my assistant. Miranda entered first, her fake confidence crumbling when she saw the stack of documents on my desk. David followed, looking like he aged years over the weekend. Please sit, I gestured to the chairs. Miranda, I believe you recognize these statements. She leaned forward, her face paling as she saw her own signature on various suspicious transfers. I can explain. The $50,000 client acquisition fee that went to your personal account. I slid one document forward. Or perhaps the mysterious art pieces that were damaged in transit, but somehow ended up in your private collection. Those were legitimate business expenses. She turned to David. Tell her. But David was staring at the numbers with growing horror. Miranda, these dates. These match the deposits you said were from your family trust. Oh? I raised an eyebrow. The trust that supposedly funded your luxury car. The one that actually came from manipulated commission structures. Miranda's perfectly manicured hands began to tremble. I had expenses to maintain. The lifestyle, the connections. The lifestyle you mocked me for not having. I interrupted softly. The connections you claimed were yours but actually came through my network. Sarah, David spoke up, did you know about this when we were married? I knew you had a weakness for women who displayed wealth, I replied evenly. I chose not to compete in that arena. I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I own. Miranda let out a bitter laugh. And look how well that worked out for you. Did it? I pressed another button on my desk, and the office screens lit up with security footage from the party. Let's review Saturday night, shall we? You assaulted a minor, in front of witnesses, on camera. I lost my temper, she whispered. The party was supposed to be embarrassing, not this. Not what? I leaned forward. Not a revelation that the woman you've been mocking actually owns your entire world? That must have been quite a shock. David ran his hands through his graying hair. All these years you've been, what exactly? A businesswoman who enjoys teaching yoga, I said simply. A mother who wanted her daughter to value character over status. And now, I turned back to Miranda. Someone who has to decide what to do with an employee who committed fraud. Please, Miranda's voice cracked. I'll pay it back. I'll do anything. I slid a final document across the desk. You have 2 choices. Option 1. We press charges for both the embezzlement and the assault. Option 2. You resign immediately, repay every penny within 90 days, and agree to mandatory counseling. 90 days, she gasped. That's impossible. The car payments alone. Sell the car, David cut in. Sell everything you bought with stolen money. Miranda stared at him. But your status, your image. My daughter's face still shows your handprint, he said coldly. I think I'm done with image. I watched as Miranda's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. The counseling requirement is non-negotiable, I added. You need to understand why you value appearances over integrity. With shaking fingers, she signed the resignation agreement. As the audit team began their official review, she looked up at me with tears in her mascara. Why didn't you expose me sooner? You must have known for months. Because Sophie needed to see something important, I replied. That power isn't in destroying others. It's in choosing when to show mercy. Mercy? She laughed bitterly. You're taking everything. No, Miranda. I'm taking back what you stole. There's a difference. After she left with the audit team, David remained behind. I've been a fool, he said quietly. Yes, I agreed. But that's not why I did this. Then why? Because our daughter needed to see that real strength isn't in designer labels or social status. It's in knowing your worth regardless of what others think. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Mom, is it done? I typed back. Justice doesn't always wear designer labels. Sometimes it wears truth. Sarah. David hesitated. Could we maybe? No, I cut him off gently. Some choices can't be undone. But you can choose to be a better father moving forward. He nodded slowly. And Miranda. We'll learn that true value isn't in what you own. I gathered my files. It's in me who you are. As David left, I looked out over the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Miranda was facing her new reality. And Sophie was learning that sometimes the best revenge isn't in striking back, it's in standing tall and letting truth do the work. 6 months later, I sat in my favorite local coffee shop, watching Sophie do her homework. The bruise from Miranda's slap had long faded, but the lessons from that night had left permanent marks. The good kind. Mom, Sophie looked up from her economics textbook. You'll never guess who I saw today. Miranda. She was working at that small art gallery in the suburbs. You know, the one that showcases local artists. I sipped my coffee, hiding my smile. I'd bought that gallery 3 weeks ago, instructing the manager to give Miranda an entry-level position if she applied. Sometimes the path to redemption starts at the bottom. How did she look? I asked. Different, Sophie considered. No designer clothes, no fancy jewelry, but maybe better. She was actually talking to customers about the art, not just the prices. My phone buzzed with a message from the gallery manager. Mrs. Reynolds completed her first month. Actually shows genuine interest in emerging artists. Recommended a local painter we're now featuring. Mom, Sophie closed her book. Do you think she's changed? People can change, I said carefully, when they're ready to do the work. The coffee shop door chimed and David walked in. Since the party, he'd started having weekly coffee dates with Sophie. No Miranda, no pretense, just a father trying to rebuild trust with his daughter. Hey kiddo, he kissed Sophie's forehead. Sarah, do you mind if I join for a minute? I gestured to the empty chair. David looked different too, less concerned with his image, more present in the moment. I signed the divorce papers, he said quietly. Miranda didn't contest anything. Sophie squeezed his hand. Are you okay, Dad? Yeah, actually. It's like waking up from someone else's dream. He turned to me. You do, didn't you? All those years ago, you knew I was choosing the wrong things to value. We all have to learn our own lessons, I replied, sometimes the hard way. Speaking of lessons, Sophie grinned. Guess who got accepted to the business program? What? David's face lit up. That's fantastic. Mom's been tutoring me in economics. Turns out I have a knack for it. I watched my daughter's eyes shine with genuine pride, not in designer labels or social status, but in her own achievements. The same pride I'd seen in Miranda's eyes last week when her first gallery showcase of local artists had sold out. The gallery manager says Miranda's doing well, I mentioned casually. David nodded. She's in therapy twice a week, learning to separate her worth from her wealth. Like father, like ex-wife. Sophie teased gently. Like all of us, he acknowledged, learning what really matters. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the gallery. Mrs. Reynolds suggested a youth art program for underprivileged kids. Should we implement? I typed back, yes. Let her run it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in punishment, it's in providing the opportunity for change. Mom? Sophie's voice pulled me back. Thank you. For what, baby? For teaching me that power isn't about having control over others. It's about having control over yourself. I looked at my daughter, strong, compassionate, wise beyond her years. At David, finally becoming the father she deserved. And through the window, I caught a glimpse of Miranda walking past, carrying art supplies, a genuine smile on her face as she talked to a young street artist. We all have power. The real victory lies in how we choose to use it. So David stood up, ready for our coffee date, kiddo. Sophie gathered her books. Can we stop by Miranda's gallery? I heard she's featuring that artist I like. Of course, he smiled. Maybe we can all learn something new. As they left, I ordered another coffee, watching the world move forward. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in the empire you build, but in the lives you change, including your own.